What's up guys, I'm Andy from 1A Auto. In this video, I'm gonna show you how to install this shock mount kit that comes with the bump stop for both sides of the rear of this 2001 BMW 325 Xi. If you need these parts or other parts for your vehicle, click the link in the description and head over to 1aauto.com. All right, I wanna loosen up the lug nuts or lug bolts. I'm gonna use a 17mm socket and a breaker bar. Now with the vehicle lifted up, I'm gonna take them off with the same socket and a ratchet. When I go to take the last bolt out, I'm just gonna use the socket. I'm gonna make sure I hold the wheel because I don't want the wheel to fall. Because once I take these lug studs out, the wheel's just gonna fall. And grab the wheel, slide it off. All right, I am gonna crack this bolt free before I support this, but I do want to support this rear suspension before I take this shock off completely, otherwise it's gonna drop significantly. That'll support the spring for the suspension. So I'm gonna use an 18mm socket and a breaker bar. Loosen this bolt up. And it's pretty good. At least it's not frozen in there. Now I'm gonna lower the vehicle and support it with a jack stand. All right, so I'm gonna support it right here. I wanna put it somewhere where it's not gonna slip off. If you put it over here, you put it right here, just be careful to make sure it doesn't slip off. But if I put it right there, it's gonna support it a little better and it shouldn't move. So I'll just lower it a little more. And that's good, just enough to support the suspension from going further down. From inside the trunk, your vehicle may have a battery cover. You may have to remove that. And there may be some clips in this panel right here, right there. This vehicle does not have those. So I'm just gonna peel this out, pull this away. Then you can access the top part of the shock right there. Now we're going to take these two nuts on the sides out, and then we can take the whole shock out with the mount. I'm going to loosen these two nuts up. I'm going to use a 13mm socket and this air ratchet. We actually sell this from 1aauto.com. You can use a regular ratchet, that would work fine. First I'm going to break the nuts free and then loosen them up. So I'm going to take this bolt out. This is an 18mm socket, and I'm going to use this air ratchet. You can use a regular ratchet. Take that bolt out, and you can slide this shock right down. So there's a couple different ways we can get this mount off. What I'm going to do is use some locking pliers. I'm going to lock it on the shaft up here. If you are reusing the shock, locking it up here is not going to affect it because the shock's not going to bounce all the way up to there, so that's not a big deal. Or you could take a wrench, put a wrench on this nut, loosen it up, and then find another smaller wrench that fits on the end of this and try to take that off. The problem with that is a lot of times they strip out. So we'll do it this way. Lock those on there. Then I'm going to use this impact wrench and a 17mm socket. Take this off. There we go. Take the nut off. Then you should be able to take the locking pliers off. Should be able to take a hammer. This is really rusted. Normally this should just slide off, but I'll just take a hammer and knock it off. Just put it on something solid, hammer that off, and there it is. Here's the old mount. Here's the new mount that comes with the bump stops and boots in a kit. You can get these at AWD.com. The mounts have the same studs. It has the same rubber bushings. Flip it over, looks the same. Get yours at AWD.com and you can do it yourself. It's a good idea whenever you're replacing shocks to exercise the shock like 3 to 5 times. Just push it in, let it extend out, and do it again. I'm going to take this boot, and this is going to go on this side of the bump stop, and that goes on like that. Take this, go down the shock, just like that. We're going to take this washer. It'd be nice if you had a new one. Just slide that on there. Take the new mount, install the mount, and then this washer is going to go on the top like that. Take the nut, install the nut. Then I'm going to take a 17mm ratchet wrench, put that on the nut, and then I'll just take a 6mm wrench and hold the shock from spinning, the stud, tighten this up. And I'm going to use a 17mm socket and a torque wrench. We sell this torque wrench at AWD.com. I'm going to torque this nut to 21 foot-pounds. I can use a pry bar to prevent this from spinning. Just tighten this up. So when you're going to torque that nut, if you're having trouble with the shaft spinning, you can take some locking pliers. And because you're putting the locking pliers up high, the lower part of the shock is never going to hit that, so don't be nervous. And I can torque this nut. From underneath, I'm going to try to line the mount up top. There is a gasket that goes on top of here, so it's a good idea to replace that gasket. Slide that in position. And then I can push up on the shock itself, take the bolt. You can put a little lubrication on the bolt to help you get it in properly. Now I'm going to tighten this bolt up. I'm going to use an 18mm socket and an air ratchet. You can use a regular ratchet as well. Now I'm going to use a 18mm socket and a torque wrench. I'm going to torque this to 74 foot-pounds. Now from inside the trunk, I'm going to put the nuts back on top here, and then we'll tighten them down. I'm going to use my 13mm socket, my air ratchet. You can just use a regular ratchet if you don't have an air ratchet. Now we can take this panel, slide this back in position. If you have those retainers, push those retainers in. Slide that back just like that. Now I can raise up on the suspension. Now I'm going to take the wheel, slide it in position. Make sure the hole's lined up, then hold the wheel. I'm going to take my 17mm socket and the lug stud and get one started. Then I can grab the other ones. Now I'm going to use a 17mm socket and a torque wrench, and I'm going to torque these lug bolts in a star pattern to 95 foot-pounds. Go right around again, just make sure everything's tight. And you're good to go.
Thanks for watching. Visit AWD.com for quality auto parts shipped to your door, the place for DIY auto repair. And if you enjoyed this video, please click the subscribe button.